Okay, good morning, students. We're going to look at this poem by E. Cummings since feeling is first. Why are we looking at this poem? Okay, we're looking at this poem because students had issues with the following figurative language terms: syntax, theme, consonant, diction, and alliteration. Okay, in this classroom, you cannot simply give me examples from the text and then not tell me why and how the author used them. And you cannot tell me why and how without giving me specific examples from the text. So this is a mini lesson to help you understand what is syntax, what is theme, consonants, diction, and alliteration. Since feeling is first, who pays any attention to the syntax of things will never wholly kiss you. Wholly to be a fool while spring is in the world, my blood approves. And kisses are better fate than wisdom, lady, I swear by all flowers. Don't cry, the best gesture of my brain is less than your eyelids flutter, which says we are made for each other. Then laugh, leaning back in my arms, for life's not a laugh, and death, I think, is no parentheses. Okay, so we're gonna look at this poem, and the first thing we're gonna look at is we're gonna look at syntax. Okay, now when you heard me reading this poem, you saw me stop here at the semicolon. And then you heard me stop here at this comma. And why did I stop? Okay, I stopped because E.E. Cummings made me stop. Okay, that use of punctuation in this particular section with these three lines, wholly to be a fool while spring is in the world, my blood approves. The use of punctuation also has to do with syntax as well. Syntax is, of course, the way that the words are arranged in the sentence, but syntax is a part of that. And why did he want me to stop? Well, he wanted me to stop because he wanted his reader to go with the flow. Now, what does that mean? This poem is not what I would say a traditional love poem. This is not a Shakespearean sonnet. This is not a Petrarchan sonnet. This is a very free verse poem. He doesn't even use capitalization, for God's sakes. And by the way, that's one of his traits. But in this poem, one of the things that he talks about, and this relates to the theme. Now, a lot of students mix up theme with subject. Theme is not subject. Theme is what the writer or author is trying to convey about a subject. It gives you insight into the human condition. So, what is E.E. Cummings trying to teach us here? Well, judging by those three lines, I figured out pretty quickly what he's talking about here. He's talking about how we must process our lives from an emotional standpoint before an analytical one. We should not overanalyze love. We should allow ourselves to be open to romance. Now, many of you will ask, Ms. Collins, how did you know that? Well, all I got to do is look here. He says, and kisses are a better faith than wisdom. Ladies, I swear by all flowers. He flat out talks about kisses being better than wisdom. I don't necessarily agree with that, but those are his viewpoints. And then he says, don't cry. The best gesture of my brain is less than your eyelids flutter, which says, we are for each other. Let's just love. That's what he's saying. And then he's saying, for life's not a paragraph, and death, I think, is no parentheses. He's talking about how we must live our lives. And a paragraph is, of course, longer than a parentheses. Okay? You can read a lot in a very short poem. Okay? Now, also, consonants was something that a lot of kids missed. Now, consonants is the repetition of is the repetition of consonant sounds. It is not the same thing as alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words. So right here where it says feeling, first, to, the, things, will, woolly, woolly, wild, world, best, brain, flowers, flutter, laugh, leaning, life, paragraph, parentheses. Okay, those are examples of alliteration. And if you look here at the first line of the poem, he says, since feeling is first. Okay, that pretty much tells me something like there. He used alliteration there to in that first section of that poem. When I read it a second time, when you read it a second time, you understand that he's telling us to feel rather than to overanalyze about love. Okay, all right. Yes, you can read all that in alliteration. Okay. And what about consonants, Miss Collins? Okay. First of all, what is consonants? Consonants is once again the repetition of consonant sounds in a work of literature. So where do you see consonants? Well, darlings, you see consonants in late, and you see it. Yes, there is alliteration there, but you see lady, all, less. You see swear, says, right? You also see it in less. You see kisses. You see approves. You see eyelid. So you hear the repetition of the L and the S sound there. And why do we have the S and the L sound? Okay, well, when I think of L, I think of love. And when I think of S, I think of a beach. I think of just calmness when I hear the sound. Okay. So that is consonants. And Miss Collins, you got all of this from this short little poem. And I am like, yes, I am an English teacher. Okay. So, Miss Collins, what about diction? You talked about diction. Okay, darling, let me explain to you something. Diction is the words that an author chooses. And after I have named all of these words that he mentioned here, it has diction. So, one thing I want you to understand is sometimes when I ask you a question, I am going to be asking you a question about alliteration, but within alliteration, there's also diction there because the author chose these words for a particular reason. Now, let's go back and let's say what I always say. If you have any questions, please ask in class. Send me a message and remind. Email me at tcollins@ebrschools.org or send me a message in GoGuardian. Y'all have a good day. And yes, I'm grading you on correctness. Have a good day. Bye-bye.